This video is about the vocabulary of polynomials and adding and subtracting polynomials. So the goal of this is to identify expressions by degree and number of terms and to add and subtract polynomials. So first let's start with the vocab. There's two ways to identify a polynomial. One is by degree and the other is by the number of terms. So when we're looking at degree, we're looking at the highest exponent in a polynomial. So remember, an exponent is written by a variable. So if we have 5x cubed plus 7x squared, the 3 and the 2 are exponents. And in this case, the degree would be 3 because it's the highest exponent. So the first type is linear. Linear means it has an exponent of 1. Remember, when it has an exponent of 1, you're not going to see the exponent. You're just going to see a variable. So an example of a linear is 3x. If it has a degree of 2, it's called a quadratic. A quadratic has an exponent of 2 then. So for example, x squared plus 7x plus 10, my highest exponent is 2, so it has a degree of 2. Number 3, cubic. An example of a cubic is 7x cubed minus 9. A quadratic, or sorry, a quartic has a power of 4. 5x to the 4th minus 3x cubed plus 9x squared minus x. So it has a lot of exponents in this one, but our largest is 4, so it's a quartic. A quintic has a power of 5, so 25x to the 5th. The other way to identify is by number of terms. So a term is separated by a plus or minus sign. So for example, if we have something that's 2x cubed minus 11x plus 5, this would have 3 terms. So a monomial means it only has one term, for example, 10x. A binomial has 2 terms, x to the 3rd minus 27. A trinomial has 3 terms, so for example, x squared minus 3x plus 6. Anything that has 4 or more terms, we're just going to call a polynomial. So x cubed plus 9x squared minus 7x plus 10 has 4 terms, so it would be a polynomial. So let's practice by filling in this table. So given an equation, you need to identify the degree, and then the name by the degree, and the number of terms. So in our first problem, our degree is 4 because 4 is our highest exponent. When we have a degree of 4, this is called a quartic. And number of terms. So we have 1 term, 2 terms, 3 terms. So this is a trinomial. Number 2, we have 4f squared plus 3f. When I look at the degree, I want the highest degree, which in this case is 2, which is why this is identified as a quadratic. When I look at my terms, I have 1, 2 terms, so this is a binomial. The next one is 12x. So I don't see an exponent, but I do see an x. So remember, this is an exponent of 1, which means my degree is 1. This is a linear function, and it's a monomial because there's only one term. The next one is negative 14g to the 4th minus 11. So my highest exponent is 4, which means this is a quartic. When I'm looking at my number of terms, I have 1, 2, so this is a binomial. The next one, 12x to the 5th minus 11x cubed plus 7x minus 2. This one has a few exponents, but the largest is 5. So this is a quintic. When I look at my number of terms, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, which is why this is called a polynomial. The next one, 12x cubed plus 3x squared. Our largest exponent is 3. So our degree is 3, which means it's cubic, and it has 1, 2 terms, so it's a binomial. Negative 11x plus 4. Now again, we don't see an exponent, but we do have an x, so my lowest exponent is 1, so my degree is 1, which means this is linear, and we have 1, 2 terms again, so this is a binomial. In the last one, we have x cubed minus 5x squared plus 10x. My largest degree is 3, which means it's cubic, and I have 1, 2, 3 terms, so it's a trinomial. The other thing that we're going to look at in this video is adding and subtracting polynomials. Now, you've done this already in the first unit of first semester. So when you add or subtract polynomials, remember that you are only combining like terms. So a like term means it has the same variable to the same power. When combining like terms, the coefficients are added or subtracted, but the variable stays the same to the same power. So in number 1, to get rid of the parentheses, we need to look at what to distribute. If there is nothing in front of the parenthesis, remember we're just distributing a 1. So here I'm distributing a 1 to everything in the first set and a 1 to everything in the second set. When you distribute a positive 1, your terms all stay the same. So we have 5x cubed minus 3x squared plus 9 plus 3x cubed minus 5x squared plus 12. So now I'm going to combine like terms. So remember that like terms are the same variable to the same power. So when I'm looking at this, I have 5x cubed and 3x cubed. They both have x's and they both have a degree of 3. So when I combine them, 5, this is a positive, so 5 plus 3 gets us 8x cubed. The power with your variable should always remain the same. Then I'm going to look at the next highest exponent, which in this case is squared. So I have negative 3x squared minus 5x squared, which gets me negative 8x squared. And then the last thing I have are my constants, which are 9 plus 12, which gets me 21. In number 2, the first set of parentheses still just has a 1 in front of it. So I'm going to distribute a positive 1. In the second set of parentheses, this is a negative 1. Remember when you multiply by a negative 1, the signs switch. So everything from the first parentheses stays the same. 10z squared plus 5z plus 19 minus 3z squared plus 6z minus 2. So I'm going to combine like terms. So I have z squared is my highest exponent to start with. So I have 10z minus 3z squared, which gives me 7z squared. Then I have a 5z plus 6z, which gets me 11z. And then I have 19 minus 2, which gets me plus 17. Remember, when you are adding and subtracting polynomials, you always need to go from your highest exponent to the lowest or to the constant. All right, so let's continue. In number 3, we have 2w to the 4th plus 7w squared minus 11 plus 2 times parentheses 3w squared plus 9w plus 21. So in the first set of parentheses, I'm still just distributing a 1. In the second set of parentheses, I'm now distributing a positive 2. So remember, when you're distributing here, you always keep the sign that's in the middle to distribute the number. So I have 2w to the 4th plus 7w squared minus 11. 2 times 3w squared is 6w squared. 2 times 9w is negative 18w, and 2 times 23 is 46. Remember, you're only multiplying the coefficients, which are the number in front of your variables. So when I look at this problem, the highest exponent I have is 2w. I don't have anything else that has a w to the fourth, so 2w to the fourth is my first term. The next highest exponent I see is a w squared. So I have 7w squared plus 6w squared, which gets me 13w squared. The next highest exponent I see is minus 18w, which has no other like term, so it remains as negative 18w. And the last term I have is negative 11 plus 46, which gets us plus 35. Number 4, in the first set of parentheses, there's nothing in front, so I have a positive 1 that I'm going to distribute. In the second set, I have a negative 4 to distribute. So I get 11x to the fourth plus 2x cubed minus 10x minus 24x cubed minus 20x squared minus 48x. So when I look at my like terms, I start again with the highest exponent, which is x to the fourth. There's only one x to the fourth term, so it stays the same as 11x to the fourth. Then I look at my next terms, and I have x squareds, or x cubed. So 2x cubed minus 24x cubed gets us 22x to the third. My next highest power is x squared, and I only have one of those, so it stays the same as 20x squared. And last I have x's. Negative 10x minus 48x gets me negative 58x. Number 5. When I look at this in the first set of parentheses, I'm distributing a positive 1. In the second set of parentheses, I'm distributing a negative 1. And in the third set of parentheses, I'm distributing a positive 1. So I get 4v squared plus 2 minus 3v minus 6 plus v squared minus 8v. So looking at the highest exponent is v squared. So v squared plus v. Remember, if there's no coefficient in front, there's a 1. So this is really 4 plus 1, which gets us 5v squared. Then I'm looking at my v term. So I have negative 3v minus 8v, which is negative 11v. And last, I have 2 minus 6, which is negative 4. Number 6, when I look to distribute, in the first set of parentheses, I still have a 1. The second set of parentheses, I have a positive 6. And the third set of parentheses, I have a negative sign, so it's a negative 1. So when I distribute, I get 6x squared plus 2. The second set, you multiply with 6, so plus 30x minus 24. And the last set, I'm distributing negative 1 minus x squared plus 8x. So first I'm going to start with the highest exponent, which is squared. 6x squared minus x squared. So this is minus 1. That gets us 5x squared. Next I have x's. So 30x plus 8x is 38x. And last I have 2 minus 24, which gets us negative 22. The last thing we're going to talk about is perimeter. So remember, when you're finding perimeter, that means the distance around a figure. In order to find the distance around the figure, you have to add your sides. So remember, in a rectangle, that your opposite sides are the same. So if the bottom is 4x minus 3, the top is also 4x minus 3. If the right side is 2x squared plus 10, the left side is also 2x squared plus 10x. So to find my perimeter, I'm going to add all my sides together. So perimeter equals, write it all out so they're added together. 4x minus 3 plus 2x squared plus 10x plus 4x minus 3 plus 2x squared plus 10x. So when I combine like terms, the first term I have is 2x squared and 2x squared. That gets us 4x squared. The next term I have is 4x, 10x, 4x, and 10x. So 4 plus 10 is 14, plus 4 is 18, plus another 10 is 28. So I have plus 28x. And then I'm going to combine my numbers. So I have negative 3 minus 3, which gets us negative 6.